take a walk with me, not like you used to do. Do something different and put yourself in other people's shoes. Open up your mind and open up your eyes and change your direction, change your perspective.
Paging Neil Matthews. Paging Neil Matthews. We have a new patient for X-ray. Hello, I have paged our host, Neil Matthews. He will be right with you. In the meantime, please find a seat, take a deep breath, and relax. Welcome to Season 19 of Other People's Shoes, called X-Ray. We're exploring what we call sight beyond sight, taking a deep look into the unseen damage and aspects of people's lives. We hope you leave today with encouragement, advice for facing similar challenges, and even a perspective shift. After hearing from our guests, we hope they give you the sight beyond sight. Here's our host, Neil Matthews.
Thank you so much, my good friend Jessica Lewis, coming back, making a cameo appearance. Anyway, I'm sure you didn't come to hear about my excitement and the people we get to voice things. No, I'm sure you're ready for the new you in the new year. This new series even. Here's what happened. I was working at an auto body shop and I was checking in a customer, and part of my job was I would walk around the car and they would point out the damage of all the things that happened during their accident. This guy was pointing at his damage one day and he's like, "Hey, how long do you think that's going to take?" And I said, "Well, sir, it really just depends on what's underneath." And he goes, "What do you mean by that?" And I said, "Well, I don't know if you know this or not, sir, but I don't have X-ray vision." And I kind of stopped. And I was like, "So what really needs to happen is we really need to see what's hidden underneath or the unseen damage. I wish we had sight beyond sight." And then I froze. I stood there a second, frozen. Quite literally, he put his hand on my shoulder and he said, "Son," because he's older than me, "are you okay?" And I kind of woke back up again and I was like, "Whoa, hold on a second." And I pull out my phone and I write X-ray, sight beyond sight, hidden damage, more on that later. And that was it. I wrote a note on my phone and that was it. And I went back to work. And the rest of the day though, you guys and gals and kids and campers alike, I was thinking about this all day long. And I thought we got to have a series and a season called X-ray, talking about the hidden damages in our lives that I don't think everyone can see. Yes, I know we're not doing medical procedures. Listen, I've watched Grey's Anatomy once or twice. I'm not medically trained to do an X-ray. I am fascinated by hidden damages in people's lives. I think that hidden damage can be used as a catapult to perhaps move us on to other things. And so that's where my friend Lynda comes in, coming in from the Sunshine State. There may be castles in the background. She may be quite royalty. So we need like a fanfare or a queen's welcome to my new friend Lynda. Lynda, how are you today?
Well, I'm doing pretty good now. Thank you for that welcome. That was awesome. Happy to be here.
That doesn't compare to anything you've ever been a part of. Be honest.
Well, I can't think of anything it compares to, so I'm being honest.
What did my publicist sign me up for? Why did I say yes to this guy? You didn't quite say yes to the dress, but you said yes to Neil, which could be less awkward. I don't know. We'll let time tell on that one. Again, Lynda, thank you so much for being here. We're excited you're here. We're excited to hear more about your story. Before we get to that, though, I'm curious about this. If we were to find you in maybe your favorite pair of shoes, what shoes might we find you in?
Let's see. I would probably say 2 pairs, and I don't know if they're my favorite. I am very comfortable in them and I wear them often. One are my flip-flops. In Florida, that's what you wear. You slip them on and you're ready to go. It's great. And that's really easy for me because I do a lot of yoga. I don't have to untie or take my shoes off and on, any socks off and on. I just get out of my flip-flops and there I am ready to do yoga. And the other pair is my running shoes. Always feel free when I'm running. And so I love my running shoes. They excite me because I know it's going to be hard, but it's going to be free when I get out there.
Okay. So here's the thing. You can't see it. Over in this side over here, you can't see it. There are running racing medals that I've accumulated over my time of running. And next to them, pair of track spikes that I bought specifically for, they call it the longest day of the year. They do a mile run. And so I bought them specifically for that race. Only for that race. I wore them once and I took them back off again. They hang there by their shoelaces. And every time I come into the Shoe Shack, which is the studio where I'm recording, I look at them and I think, will there ever be a day I don those again? Want to run. I miss what you described truly is how I feel too, is that free feeling when you're out running and it's hard and it's tough.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe echo this, maybe not. Sometimes it sucks. And sometimes you don't want to go that next mile, or you don't want to go up that next hill, or you don't want to go up that next block, whatever it may be. You find that inner drive, I can't even articulate, find a way to keep going.
You couldn't have said it better.
And maybe that leads into my first question is when you think about this hidden damage, this idea that maybe there's been something inside of us that we've sheltered or we've hidden. I love turtles, so maybe we've buried it down deep in our shell where no one can see it, no one can touch it, but maybe an x-ray would reveal it. What do you think is that hidden damage for you?
I would say that hidden damage for me, it has a lot to do with my siblings, definitely the loss of my siblings, probably the guilt and the shame that I feel as a result of watching my siblings suffer, not being able to save them. I know that's not my responsibility. I still struggle with that. And there's still some damage down there, even though there's been lots and lots of healing good that has come from that. I'm still having to work through some of that healing process from the whole season of living with two siblings who were very unhappy, very mentally, emotionally, and physically. That's it.
So if it's okay to ask, how did you lose them?
Well, my sister, she was diagnosed as chronic schizophrenia around the age of 18. And there was a process before she got there. So I lost her. She was my best friend, inseparable, until she started changing. Once she was diagnosed with that, she went in and out of psychiatric hospitals for a few years. And then she was basically in psychiatric institutions her whole life. She was psychotic. She had psychosis. I lost her in her 20s to that. She died eventually. I lost her from losing her ability to understand and to have any kind of real relationship with me as we were younger. And then my brother, he developed a drug addiction when he was a teenager. He was my younger brother. A lot of repercussions from that. He healed and went into the military, was about to go into law school in his early 30s and developed leukemia. It was not good. I gave my bone marrow. I was close to a perfect match. Not perfect, but close. So I donated my bone marrow. It healed leukemia, but it killed him. That's how I lost him in his 30s.
There's three of you. There's the brother, their sister, and then you.
Mm-hmm.
How does that feel now as an adult? There isn't anyone else. It's just you.
I loved them so deeply. I am so grateful that I knew them and loved them and wrestled through life with them until they passed away. I'm extremely grateful for that. I'll always feel grief and loss over watching them suffer. I don't really know what it feels like to have siblings who are healthy and well ever. I can't really say I know what that feels like. I only know what my experience is right now. I think siblings are hugely important. I think they're a huge part of our lives. I received that this was, life is just full of different stories. Everything works together for a reason and a purpose. And so this is part of my story. And I receive it. I had to grieve after season through the loss of my siblings.
So what would you say to somebody right now who has siblings, who maybe is estranged from them? What counsel might you give?
I think that's a really good situation to bring up because I think that can be very, very painful for people. I think that when we're experiencing that level of pain, if it is painful for them, if they were close and they really are experiencing a lot of pain from the separation of their sibling, that pain serves its purpose. It really does. When we go through it, we need to feel it, acknowledge it, grieve it, weep over that pain, and then let it serve its purpose as far as what we need to see in ourselves, forgiveness, and the grace that we need to show the sibling that is estranged from us. There's so much to learn. We have to learn a lot about ourselves when we're going through that kind of situation. And I think that's the only takeaway that I know that I've learned is just learn that pain has a purpose. Pray for reconciliation. Hope is huge. Never give up hope. Hope. It's huge. It really propels us through life.
Well, I'll give you a real life example.
Okay.
My brother and I are 2 years apart. He's older.
Mm-hmm.
I don't ever remember a time of us being close.
Okay.
It seemed like the shoes I was wearing, I was always in competition with him. He was the better athlete. He was the better musician. He seemed to be the better at everything. I don't necessarily know if I wanted to be like him, but man, I sure as heck wanted the attention he was getting. A lot of the attention was driven towards him. I won't say he was the favorite. Darn near it sure as heck felt like he was. It drove me crazy. As a child, as a younger child especially, I felt like I needed to think of creative ways to get my parents' attention. So when I was younger, that involved acting out. So I had a lot of anger issues. As I got older and into middle school, I started what I would call success lies. I would go home and I would tell my dad these things that were happening that were larger than life and made me sound super successful. I don't know if he believed him or not. It sure as heck got his attention for that 5 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever it was. And he's like, man, it sounds like you're kind of a big deal. I'm like, yeah, Dad, I'm a big deal. And I remember when I started my podcast, I said, hey, Dad, I'm doing this podcast. Do you want to listen to it? And he goes, I don't even know how. I said, there's an internet, there's a website, like I can give you the link. He's like, yeah, I don't know if I'll ever listen to it. And I was like, okay. And then he ended up being a guest. My stepmom, his new wife, listened to it. And she said she wept over the episode of how great I had done and, you know, how I sounded and all this stuff. I've spent majority of my life living in this shadow of my brother. My brother is very strange. Like my mom has nothing to do with him. My dad absolutely has nothing to do with him. And then there's me. I don't want a relationship with him per se, but I don't want the distance any longer. But I have no interest of trying to find him. He does live in our community somewhere. I don't know where. I hear from time to time he's at this job or he left this job. And so I say all that to dump it in your lap. What do you do with that?
I really always believe that the answer will surface for you. Nothing needs to be rushed. You just have to be open. There's nothing wrong with not wanting a relationship with him. There is something that you're still needing or wanting from him. I mean, wanting as for you, that's important. I think you need to evaluate that when it comes up in your own soul. And I think that's part of being healthy and well is not ignoring the cues our own mind, body, and soul are telling us. And sometimes it involves taking a risk. Sometimes it involves putting up a boundary that we are afraid to put up, but it's necessary. That's all I know.
I was really hoping you were going to say, nah, forget about him. Yeah, you're good. Just write him off. No such luck. Dang it, Lynda.
Well, you know what the great thing is that there's never a wrong decision. It's just important to make one when it's time.
There's never a wrong decision. It's just important to make one at the time. Did I hear that right?
I think that we're going to make bad decisions or good decisions half and half the time. And we just always learn each time. We're human beings. We put too much pressure sometimes on our decisions.
So I asked you in our green room, I want to come up with a cooler name than green room. I asked you like yoga. Why did you get into yoga? For me, I struggle, and I'm sure I'm not alone in this, with the idea of being still. I struggle with the idea of just getting my mind at a restful state unless I'm napping or like sleeping for the night. Think of them as the same. Napping and sleeping for the night are two different things. Sitting still, I know sometimes with yoga comes some type of meditation. I've heard that through the years. I absolutely cannot do that. I've tried coming out to this room, shutting everything off, lights included, all the bells and whistles, and just sitting here in the stillness between maybe me and the creator, whoever that is for some. Me, it's Jesus and God. So that's my pick. I can't do that. I'm challenging myself in this new year, new me, new you of 2025 to be more still. Help me be more still. Help me be more calm. Is there such a thing that you can send me all the way from Florida all out to Oregon? What can you do on that?
I appreciate your honesty. What you're communicating right now is why you need yoga. It will help you learn to appreciate and to practice stillness. I'm a runner too. Runners like to go. We like to move. If you allow yourself, and part of it is being open. And remember, when we're open and adaptable, we don't get stuck. So when you think about yoga, you're stretching yourself, opening yourself up. That's always a place of growth. So when you do yoga, and I didn't start until I was in my 40s, you can start anytime. You learn to be present, which is a huge, important quality. If you're not present in the moment, you're going to miss so much.
She's laughing because I'm grimacing right now of being present. I struggle with being present. In your 40s, so like a couple of years ago for you? Is that what you're saying?
No, it was longer. It was longer than that. People think of yoga, they have an idea that they have to go through a whole yoga class. You just start small. You just start with really learning how to deep breathe and then learning how to sit in a stretch for more than 5 seconds. Once you experience the release of the tension release through your muscles, how it affects your mind, you'll want to go back to it. If you can get past, when you're in a deep stretch in yoga, you're learning how to sit in the pain and stay with it. And you develop resiliency and strength. If those are qualities that you want to grow in, yoga teaches you how to endure the pain of the stretch, not pain, but just discomfort. And the struggle, which we usually want to run away from, then you get to experience all the benefits. You've released the tension from staying in that stretch a little longer. It's so good for every single human on this earth.
Have you ever wept while doing yoga? You've been able to release painful areas in your life?
Oh, yes. Yeah, it's really common in yoga. I don't now, but I did in the beginning stages. It can be overwhelming at first. You really don't realize that it's coming. There is so much science behind this. Cells carry our emotions. They're all stored within our cells, some of them deep down there. If we're not releasing and processing some of those emotions, I don't like to use this terminology. It could be said in a clearer, better way. It's like a visceral, somatic. Our body carries a lot of our experiences. When we can allow our body to truly rest and stretch all of our matrix tissue around our body, our connective tissue houses a lot of our tension, which comes from our emotions, some of our distorted thinking, some of our anxiety, all of those things. So when we allow ourselves to do some deep stretching, really releases some of those pent up emotions and some that we've carried for years. It is so freeing. You just need to learn how to do it. Start with a yoga class, get the basics, and in time, it takes time. You'll start practicing on your own. Again, it's good for everyone. A lot of men run away from it, but the men that do it love it.
Well, I was going to make a really silly joke right now. Like, I love seeing my wife in yoga pants, but that seemed mildly inappropriate in this moment. Maybe not. Okay. It landed well. And that's what I'm trying to say is we had a guest a number of episodes back and a number of seasons back. He was an ADHD expert. I would even call him an ADHD whisperer. And I started talking and we were interacting and he said, hey, Neil, I have this great idea. What do you think of this? And I was like, okay, what's your idea? And he's like, hey, I'm going to diagnose you at the end of the episode and we'll just kind of run through it. You just do what you normally do. And we'll just, at the end of it, we'll just have this big reveal. What do you think? And I was like, that's genius. Actually, I was going to ask you if you would be open to that. He's like, I'm totally open to that. Let's do it. And I was like, okay. So we get done and that's what he does, this giant reveal. Here's like the 5 things I noticed. It really was rough for me to truly hear. You really think it's possible, Lynda, I'm now leaning into your expertise in yoga, stilling myself. You think that's really possible? New me, new year, new Neil, this could happen?
Yes. Yes, I really do believe that it's possible. And I think that's how life is. When we try new things and we put ourselves in uncomfortable positions, we really grow. It really takes allowing ourselves to be put in uncomfortable places that we know are probably good for us. We need to get more honest, deeper within. That's what I say true health is. You just have to get honest with yourself. And the only way you can get honest with yourself, honestly, you have to have a place of being still.
It's in the stillness, if I'm hearing you again right, it's in the stillness that true growth can take place.
I think it's in the stillness when you begin to allow yourself to become deeper aware of, a little bit more open to hearing some things from within you that you normally don't take the time to listen to. You really have to listen to your inner being. We usually don't take enough time. We won't get it by just being still just for 10 seconds. It's going to take a little bit longer.
I was going to say, I think I could be still for 10 seconds. I think I could do that. Maybe, probably not though.
Well, the deep breathing helps. Do you deep breathe? Do you practice deep breathing?
No.
It helps tremendously. So in yoga, they call it pranayama. When you incorporate deep breathing, you begin to slow down your central nervous system. And that's the whole point of yoga and deep breathing is slowing down your central nervous system to become more present and more aware of the truth inside of you.
Okay, so I'm going to pick on my mother-in-law. I hope she listens. She does listen from time to time. She actually tells me, hey, who's coming up? Are they good? Should I listen to them or not? And I always say, well, everyone's good. Because I've heard through the years, being a guy of faith, being a guy that tries very hard to walk with Jesus every single day, I've heard people say yoga is a gateway into demonic, into things like that. Would you know anything about that? Have you heard those things?
Oh, I love it that you just went ahead and just talked about the elephant in the room for Christians.
Well, I know a fair amount of them. Some of them listen from time to time. Some of them are ladies trying to help out my sisters.
I knew that yoga has background. I mean, I've studied it. I know all about it. First of all, I got my 250-hour yoga certification. I did decide to go. There were only 2 faith-based yoga national certifications in the country, and one was in Atlanta. And I decided to get mine from that perspective because of my faith. Now, personally, my personal practice through yoga has brought so much more, a deeper authentic relationship with myself, a much deeper relationship with God. Now, I already had a deep relationship with God. I didn't realize I was living, covering some things up that God wanted. In Psalm 51, it says, David says, "You delight in truth in our inward being." I realized that God wants truth from the deepest parts of ourselves, physically, emotionally, the way we think, from our soul. You have to know where you are not lining up with that truth. And yoga helped me see more deeply some of the false beliefs, the lifestyle that aligned with that. And I'm not talking about anything terribly bad, just things like that we do to cover up our own sense of wanting to be worthy or valued, just not living in authentically who God created us to be, whether it's people pleasing. Yoga just gave me so much more of an opportunity to see those things and to get really honest with myself, want that kind of relationship, the truth oriented in every part of my being.
I've heard that through the years, is that people say yoga is the gateway. I get made fun of, okay? I get made fun of a lot. One of the presets on my stereo in my car is a spa channel on XM radio. And if I'm having a rough day, or if I'm having a day that I just need to think about the show, or I want to get creative, or I just need my mind to just go someplace, I'll throw that on. I've come out here in the shoe shack and I have a Bluetooth speaker and I throw it on and I just sit and I just think. I invite God in. And I say, God, what do you want me to talk about next season? What do you want me to do with the show? Hey, I have this guest that, I'm not sure about. What do you think? By the way, Lynda, it was not you. It was someone else. I tease. Those are the moments that I try to get still and I try to get quiet.
Well, that's great.
I'm not stretching while I'm doing it. I'm just afraid. I'm not afraid of yoga, but I am afraid of yoga. I just don't want it to hurt. I'm not the skinny rail kid that I used to be at 160 running track and cross country. I'm a little bigger now. I'm chubbier now.
Well, Neil, can I ask you a question? What are you afraid of? When we understand pain, when we're in real deep pain, it's a warning, stop doing what you're doing. But when we're in just discomfort, pain that isn't going to kill us, it's an indicator of something. When we can move towards it instead of run away from it or avoid it, we actually become much wiser. We're freer and we're living without trying to avoid pain, which isn't really a good way to live. Yoga teaches you that. It teaches you how to embrace compassionate edge. We're not talking about making yourself terribly painful, going a little deeper. And there's ways you can do that. You learn how through your inhaling and exhaling, the way that you use your mind. It teaches you a lot about how to handle not just physical pain, but emotion.
I'm so glad we got to meet, Lynda. You're such a gem. You are. I love you. You're a great lady. You're
My
super
husband,
sweet.
when I share these kind of things with him, he's like, I'm done.
It's like, I roll. Don't you have a show to be on? That's probably what he said. We love him dearly, husband. If I'm a novice, and novice is being even polite to the word novice, I feel like greenhorn comes to mind. Like, I don't even know where to start. I'm a little mad that I don't get to buy a new pair of shoes if I start yoga. So I'm trying to get past that because I needed another reason to buy another pair of shoes. Do you help people? Are you online helping people? Maybe talk about that. And then I know there's an amazing book that's come out that you want to tell people about too. So maybe two-part question. Do you help people? And then tell me about the book, and then we'll play our game.
I love helping everyone do yoga. And I've had men and women in my class. That's great. The thing about yoga is you just have to get started. And so just getting started when it's brand new, it's always hard. There's such a learning curve. Your brain is trying to figure out what's going on. You have no neural pathway to walk down because you're just creating this new neural pathway. So you have to give yourself time. But you will benefit every single time we do something new like that and we keep going. The confidence grows. And I see my students confident growing. And then within a few months, I see them say, oh my gosh, I feel so good. I haven't felt like this. I can see so many changes in their whole body because they're reducing the stress. And when you reduce stress, you reduce inflammation in your body. So my book walks you through why I believe that yoga is important, especially for everyone. And I am a strong believer that in the Bible and that God created us, everything that God created is good. We can move our body. He gave us joints that move in all different directions. He gave us bodies that are supposed to move and stretch all over the place. And because we just don't do that, I think that's why when we do yoga, we get a chance to just move our body in all kinds of ways and understand how our body works. We get so much more in tune to it when we're putting our mind into the movements of our body, and not only just the outward movement, the inner muscles, even our internal organs are getting massaged. And so it just gives us a better understanding of what's going on in our body when we begin to do yoga.
Where can folks get the book? Somebody who's listening to you right now saying, okay, Lynda's got me sold. I'm ready to try yoga. Might be the first time. I might fail miserably, but I'm going to give it a shot. What's the next step?
Okay, so if you live in Florida, you're invited to my class. I have a class here. I have a whole chapter on movement. I talk a lot about yoga. I believe there's so many important forms of how we use our body. We need to have cardio. We need to have strength building. Yoga is the one thing that I make sure I do just about every single day because it does so much strengthening and stretching. And we can do power yoga, which really gets our heart rate up. You just start small. And I would say find a yoga instructor that matches what you're comfortable with. You won't like every yoga instructor. They're all unique and they're all coming from their own place. You have to find one that fits you, and you can do it online. There's so many good yoga instructors online. You just have to find one and start small. Don't have too many expectations. That would be the best thing I could say. And so when you read in my book, it'll give you some yoga poses and tell you some of the ways that a lot of the benefits of yoga. I keep it simple. I keep everything is simple. Otherwise, if it's too much, we're going to feel too overwhelmed. We're going to try too much too fast, and we're not going to like it.
And the book is called, for all of us listening and wondering,
it's called Strong, Sane, and Sassy. Exposing the truth about real health, 8 powerful proven lifestyle habits that transform you from the inside out. You could tell by the topic, it's designed for women. It's equally important for men and women. We all have a human body. We all need to understand how our body works and take care of it to the best that we can, mind, body, and spirit. It's readable for men and women.
Did yoga save your life?
No, yoga can't save your life, but it can give you a lot better life, and it can actually probably extend your life. Yes.
So it didn't save your life in any way?
I would say that it probably did a lot for me during some times of healing. And I think healing is very important for all of us. I think healing is life-giving and important. So in some ways, it added a lot to my life.
See, I love that. Lynda, if somebody wants to talk to you, if they run into the yoga instructor, maybe from Durham or hell, in other words, how can someone get in touch with you? What's the best way they can connect?
Well, my website is, I'm going to tell you the name of it. It's a little bit easier. Wild About Wellness. It's lindahebert.com, but my name is not spelled like it sounds. It's LYNDAHEBERT.com. And I'm on Instagram at Lynda_same LYNDAHEBERT.
And we will link your website in our show notes. So, Lynda, how many podcasts do you think you've been on or interviews that you've done over the last, let's say, year or so?
I would say maybe I've done a lot of speaking out in the community, podcasts, maybe 10, 15. I've done a TV show, some radio stations.
Has anyone ever played a game with you at the end of their show, though?
Never.
Okay. All right. Yes. All right. Well, this is the fastest growing game in the podcast community, and my good buddy Zach is going to tell us more about it. Zach, take it away.
It's now that time in the show to play the fastest growing game in the podcast world. We call it Heal Hustle. Today our guest will try to answer all 6 of these questions in 60 seconds or less to win an Amazon gift card. Amazon not responsible for this commercial spot, nor did they pay to let us use their name. Audience, feel free to play at home. Are you ready? Let's put 60 seconds on that clock. Ready, set, hustle!
The game begins in 3, 2.
All right, Lynda, here you go. Who is someone you would trade places with for a week? Whose shoes would you trade places with?
Wow, that is a good one.
Remember, only 60 seconds.
I would probably, someone who lives near a ski resort because I love to go skiing.
There you go. What is something that makes you feel like you're walking on air?
Being on the beach, just feeling the ocean breeze.
What is the most unforgettable comment that you've ever received that made you feel so picture perfect?
Wow. Think of anything that made me feel picture perfect. I just think I appreciate you. Appreciate you.
That's good, right?
Appreciate you. It's a good one.
It's always good. What is the worst piece of advice that felt like it just destroyed you?
Do whatever feels right at the moment.
Yeah, that's terrible advice. Nobody should ever follow that. What's one skill you wish you could tie up a little bit better?
I would love to be perfect at my communication skills. I think communication is huge.
Yeah.
And so I would love to perfect them completely.
It's really hard to do sometimes. What is something that never fails to make you kick up your heels with laughter?
Well, you did that. I have to tell you that. My grandchildren, the things that they do, my grandsons, just you never know what's going to come out of their mouth. They're very honest. They just say what they think. And usually they get me laughing.
Well, it's too bad you're not old enough to be my grandmother. I'm looking for a new one. Could be your grandson if you want it. But you're definitely not old enough. So that's awkward right now in this moment. Very awkward. Well, Lynda, thank you. I just want to say this truly. Thank you so much for giving us some moments today. I know you took some time away from your family to be here, and I always want to honor and respect that. Just say thank you so much for being here. We really appreciate you.
Well, thank you, Neil. I've really enjoyed talking with you. I appreciate your genuineness, and you're very artistic, and I really appreciate that about you. And you're very real and authentic. Thank you.
Oh, that's very kind. All right, guys and gals, kids and campers alike, that is it. That is all. That is another show. We're off and running. This new year, new you. We'll work that out still. We've got some bugs to work out in this new season. Listen, Lynda, that fit so well, didn't it? Yoga, really? Come on. Is that really a new thing we can do this year in this new you, new me? I'm going to try it. I might try it. I might throw some videos of me trying to do yoga on social just so I can get some giggles. I'm going to do it. Some Lululemon, I'm doing it. In that, I wonder what you heard. I heard something and it probably snuck right past you. So I'm going to say it one more time. It's the idea of getting still. It's a skill that I still don't have. The still skill. I'm going to market that. Still skill. I don't have it. I bet you don't either in this fast-paced, fast world, fast now, fast latte, fast food, fast you. Not so much anymore. But I want you to think about that. When's the last time you sat and were still? Try that this week. Let me know if you do that. OPSpodcast.com is a place to let me know. You can let us know on our socials at OPS Podcast Show on our Facebook, Instagram, and X. And until next week, don't forget, remember, when you walk in other people's shoes, you really do get a different perspective on life. Again, thank you so much for listening, and stay tuned till next week when we walk in other people's shoes.